speaker from Italy, Professor Michele Geraci, who is the former Undersecretary of State of the Italian Ministry of Economic Development. Professor Geraci is also a fluent speaker of Mandarin, of Chinese. He has deep insights into living and experiencing the true nature of Chinese society and culture. And he helped to initiate the memorandum of understanding and the work that he was doing in the former government of Italy, which I hope perhaps he will be able to influence with the coming new government in the future, so that more European nations are working together to expand friendship and cooperation through the work of the Belt and Road. So, Professor Geraci, you are welcome. Please speak.
Thank you very much, Stephen. Thank you to the BRICS Institute for the invitation. It's always a pleasure to be with you and to give me the opportunity to share for a few minutes what I'm thinking. I want to give my greetings to the ambassadors present, both of you, and to all colleagues from academia. I will speak in English, not in Chinese, although I'm also expanding to further languages as the need arises. You're right, Stephen. I was the main proponent of Italy joining the Belt and Road. This was done in 2019. I'm a believer from what I've seen in China, for what I've seen in Japan, in Korea, and what I have not seen in India, what I have seen maybe in Kenya and in France, but not in Italy, is that the development of transport infrastructure is one of the key pillars of social and economic development. This allows mobility of people. This allows to manage the migration that could be from rural to urban. This allows efficiency of how the society is run. I give you one example. In Italy, we have, maybe you are familiar with, frequent train delays. I have accumulated the train delays in Europe and also Germany. Not so good either. I've accumulated more delays in a few months traveling around trains in Europe than in 12 years in China. This creates inefficiency because we do know that people, to make a very simple example, they need to go to the railway station earlier to wait for the train in case they miss the connection. So a lot of time is spent waiting on the platform. So this is a micro example, and I've done the macro example of migration. So I do believe that the transport is a key pillar of economic development. And that's why I thought that Italy joining the BRI project, cooperating with China and with all the other countries, could have brought prosperity, not just to my own country, but also to the other countries involved along the route and in the rest of Africa, which, by the way, is something that Europe needs to address because we have a growing migrant crisis that could be also getting worse because of food supply from Ukraine and Russia. And therefore, we need to look at how countries like Egypt, Rwanda, that rely a lot on wheat coming from those two countries will react. So it is almost no-brainer for me that cooperating on developing infrastructure gives the potential of economic and social stability to developing countries. This was, of course, criticized, but let's say this is the past. Looking forward, I do think that the current government is taking a more practical approach, and I'm trying to do my best with daily WhatsApp to relevant people to make sure that they understand that we can be at the same time part of the NATO alliance that has never been put into discussion, and yet do business with China. This is not in any way contradictory. The US, which of course is the pillar of the NATO, wants to do more business with China. And so it is almost funny that the Belt and Road or countries that want to do business with China are in a way accused of wanting to shift the geopolitical and step out of the NATO, of the Western alliance, while it is indeed the US that wants to do exactly the same thing with the Phase 1 agreement and other agreement that kind of even force or push China to buy more made in USA product, which is the Phase 1 agreement is a much more tight agreement than a framework MOU that we do sign with China that has no specific project. So if the United States can have a Phase 1 agreement getting China to buy more US goods, and the US is the NATO, why cannot European countries do a softer agreement and yet be part of the NATO? We are in Italy an export-driven country. We want the world to be prosperous. We want Russia to have a strong economy. We do not want our clients to have economic difficulties, because these will face and feed back into our own economy. We do want China to be prosperous. We don't want to contain China growth. We want China to be growing. We want to sell our fashion, food, machinery, chemical product, high technology products to countries around the world, within the framework, of course, of avoiding the dual usage and the military, the usual limitation. That's fine. We do not sell warplanes to China, and that is perfectly acceptable. So the development of infrastructure that is in, by the way, not just in Italy and China or in other countries like in Africa, is also, in my view, a non-sensitive topic that should not raise concerns amongst the NATO geopolitical allies. I'm very happy that both the Italian government is reconsidering or is looking at it, how to best interact with China. But the very good news that we have had is the visit of Chancellor Scholz to China. The continuous discussion between President Macron and President Xi Jinping, and even the visit of head of the European Council, Michele, soon on December 1st to China, because this means that Biden has met with Xi Jinping, Scholz has gone to China, the European Commission goes to China. I think this is a very good sign, because it provides a cover to countries that are kind of not 100% convinced yet, or that they fear that being geopolitically weaker, they cannot do the first step. The fact that Germany does go first, it provides a political cover to all other countries, so that, if Scholz can go to China and meet with President Xi, of course, my Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni can do it, and indeed that's what she said. She accepted an invitation by President Xi Jinping to go to China next year, and so this is very good news. In a way, when we have a bit of a geopolitical tension, so we kind of always need a leader. That does, by leader I mean someone that leads, someone that does take the first step in kind of breaking the impasse and getting back to business. So I'm glad that again Chancellor Scholz won his own internal battle with Annalena Baerbock from the Green Party, who is notoriously more cold towards doing business with China, for a reason that I don't understand, because her being from the Green Party needs to also understand that the green evolution in the European Union cannot be done without cooperation with China, that has the largest production of solar panels, wind farms, and also leading also on the usage of energy with electric vehicles. So I'm glad that there is this apparent contradiction, the criticism on the Belt and Road, the new Green Deal in European Union is gaining a little bit of momentum, and this brings back to real politics, because in this time of also geopolitical tensions within Europe also, we need to bring trade back at the center, because with trade, we have communication between people, we have communication between companies, people get to know each other, they understand that there are no monsters around, they are just other people that do the same thing that we do around the world. They wake up in the morning and they want to make some money so that they can send their children to school and buy food for their wives and husbands. And so that's why, as a professor, I put both hats, half a politician, half academic. I think we also have a responsibility to increase this exchange of knowledge, students, professors, culture, music, literature. God forbid if we stop reading, like in Europe we are trying, or we have tried to do, to stop to read writers, for example, from Russia, just because they happen to be Russia. This is, in my view, completely crazy and working towards war, not towards peace. So the Belt and Road for me is an agent of peace. I use a slogan. I never do slogans, but this I like it because it's mine. It's better the Silk Road than the tank road. So I think where we trade goods, we don't trade weapons. And I think we're talking about China here, but I'm also reaching out to our friends in Russia. And of course, we have the Belarusian friends here, that we really are part, not just of Europe, but part of the world. And we really need to work together to bring peace to people and serenity to daily lives. Thank you very much.